Let's bring in Warren Mundeed, Indigenous leader and opponent of The Voice. Happy Australia Day, Warren.
Happy Australia Day to you, mate.
How have you marked the day?
Well, I've been working pretty hard for the last few weeks. So I just laid back at home, had a cup of tea and watched all the events and had a relaxing day. And then I got caught up in the wife come home and caught me up in some romantic rom-com thing.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Which was torture for me, but anyway.
Now, tell me about the opposition's position on The Voice. Peter Dutton hasn't committed. Obviously, you want the opposition to oppose The Voice. You're against it. Would you be happy with Peter Dutton allowing the coalition members or Liberal members, the Nationals have made up their mind, Liberal members a conscience vote on this?
Well, I think Peter Dutton has played a pretty smart game. Like, he hasn't come out saying yes and he hasn't come out saying no. He's actually raised a few questions and I think some of those questions are quite legitimate to ask. Probably some of them was getting down to the furniture level, but I thought they were, the asks. And this seemed to be the thing in the wider Australian community about those questions. So he hasn't jumped.
No.
He's taken his time.
So do you reckon a conscience vote for Liberal MPs, though? Some favour it, some openly say they favour it. Why not allow them to back whichever campaign they believe?
Well, for my thinking, I'm hoping they don't. And I'm quite open about that, because here you got on the Labor side all these blokes sitting there, been swallowed, the Kool-Aid, and you got other. Then in the Liberal Party, the vast majority of the Liberal people do not support the vote. And I travel around this country a lot.
Yeah, well, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to get back to that. Do you think allowing them a conscience vote, in other words, having the Liberal Party not oppose it like the Nats, is a reasonable outcome for this country?
To be quite honest, I can't understand why people support the vote, The Voice. I just find that incredibly amazing that they do, because The Voice, we've done these things in the past, and this voice is going to be no different from the other voices that were in the past, and the current one we got, which is the coalition of the Peaks. And where was the coalition of the Peaks when it come out about getting rid of the cashless debit card, when it was getting out there and allowing alcohol into these communities, and bloody Albo had to be dragged screaming to Alice Springs to deal with to try and deal with all this, women's suffering and all the crap that Jacinta Price and myself have been talking about for decades.
You have indeed. And look, there are a lot of Indigenous representative groups, and I think if The Voice is going to succeed, a lot of them need to be subsumed, but no one wants to say that now because they don't want to get anybody upset about losing their organisation. But what I don't understand, and this would be really interesting for our view, I can understand people saying they don't think The Voice will work. That, it's been tried before.
Not going to work. Well, it's not about thinking about it. I've seen how. I do. I've seen the same crowd that sat around that table that got rid of the cashless debit card. They're the same crowd who are sitting around that table.
But you don't know who. You don't know who Indigenous communities will throw up as their representatives. My question is why. I can understand that scepticism, though. I'm saying that's easy to understand, and you make good points about what we've seen in the past. But why are you so vehemently opposed to it? Why do you see it as something that's dangerous?
We've got to a situation now in the last 25 years, and I've got a meeting with the Mineral Council to talk through this as well, where we've got people on the ground who negotiate now what happens on their country. They talk about it, they've got the right to be at the table, they talk with the mining industry, they talk with governments if they want to build roads or rail or anything like that. They talk with, they talk with the private sector who want to do shops and stuff like that. And so we've got that stage now. And they're supported by amazing, through the Northern Land Council, Central Land Council, about legal things. And I sat 9 years as one of those legal advisors with a whole group of lawyers to these Aboriginal, and we're getting amazing outcomes. We're getting jobs. 7,000 Aboriginals, the second biggest employer in the country is the mining industry. And it was through those negotiations. And now, this is where both sides get it wrong. This is where I think both sides get it wrong. When they say, well, nothing's improved. Well, when I was a kid, we didn't even know what university was. And we've got doctors and lawyers and
I
engineers.
know, I agree wholeheartedly. There's been massive improvements, but we've still got a long way to go. Let me go
I can't see how this is going to do it.
Well, let me go to Lydia Thorpe. I showed earlier how she says this nation is at war and Aboriginal people are being killed and raped, just crazy stuff. But here's what she says about The Voice.
Yeah.
We deserve better than an advisory body. We have an opportunity to have a treaty that allows for, which is only through a piece of legislation, they could put 10 independent black seats in the Senate today. We want real power. And we won't settle for anything less.
There we go, Lydia Thorpe. She wants real power. Now, she's going to be running the no case like you, but for totally different reasons,
it was
right?
some strange bedfellows, I can say that. But anyway, look, Lydia's part right in regard, but not for the things she's thinking. Like she's saying there are like there's a war going on. There are some wars going on, but it's in these Aboriginal communities where drugs and alcohol and all these things are happening, and violence and everything's happening in those communities. Look, we've got to, no one's saying it's a perfect thing, but we've got to get around some of these issues about state, federal and territory problems. When I was chair of the Prime Minister's Advisory Council for Abbott and for Turnbull, most of my time, I'd say 95% of my time was dealing with state and territory bureaucrats and politicians and that. So there are better ways to do these things than that. Now, I'm a supporter of putting Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders in the Constitution. I'm very supportive of migrants and other groups being in that Constitution, but it's about the place you put it and how we actually go forward into the future.
Thanks for joining us, Warren. I appreciate it.
Thank you.